All right, hey guys, welcome to the NGG Fantasy Football League podcast. Here, Blind Spiral Code, and then we've got Cade Romero joining us this week. I think what we're going to do is this is going to be the normal three, and then we will start to just kind of see who else wants in and to jump in and join us in these in the videos. I think they'll be a little bit fun. I think it adds another layer to our league. Try to keep it everybody's favorite is the plan. So, how you guys doing? Everything good so far with your nights?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, pretty solid. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me and thanks for just allowing me to be involved and see how your league has developed this season. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. It's been great having you as an outside perspective, and I really feel like a lot of people probably thought that you were like a ghostwriter of me or codes. So I'm glad
Yeah,
that you get
I
to be here
really
and
do
speak
think
on
somebody said
things.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's nice.
yeah, nice to have a face to my own name.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we'll do a quick recap of last week. I know there's not too much to talk about as we talked about. Nothing really took us by surprise, right? I mean, obviously Dan Flash just goes ahead, picks up the win over the implications. Webster Tigers put up a lot of points, which caught me off guard, but Brownout comes through. Quadfathers barely taking out codes with Burrow scoring the most points of the week, which breaks my heart. Excuse me, Raggy barely coming over codes. Quadfathers barely over Watson's. And
Right,
then
yeah,
Kung Su
exactly.
Pandas and Spider Pigs come through and take those last two wins, but nothing really
That
too surprising with these games. I feel like.
that was the week you gave Burrow to Cam Hunt, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So
it was.
that
And then
that trade literally won him that week.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, and that was a long thing to do. I remember when we were writing the interview or doing his interview, he said in response to that trade that he's like, "Oh yeah, I talked to Blind and he was a willing seller," and I said back, "I
you're
was
like, no.
not willing."
Yeah, you are
Um,
not really
yeah,
willing.
Burrow's my guy, and that was very very painful to go through with that. But here we are, so it's all good. We are going to
Yeah, I
touch
was.
on. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I know. It's fine. I was just saying when Cody first showed me that Burrow trade when we were first commenting
Yeah.
on that, I said, "Well, I'm glad the coaches shook hands on this one."
Yeah.
hmm
'Cause Yeah, but hey, you're committed. You're taking action for your team. That's what matters.
yeah.
we had talked about it. He's building for 2023 now. So like, and this class is loaded with just good running back talent and like
Yeah,
some of the
and he
quarterbacks
could
from the
still finish. I think
yeah.
middle of the road, maybe at the end of the season. There's still several games left, so
Yeah. Well, we'll actually touch on that here in a second or two. Let's talk about the Christian McCaffrey trade, though. So, as I've mentioned very viscerally, I don't want this to be an NFL talking
hmm
show because why listen to me? I don't know anything.
Yeah, same.
I'm the one who's in last place in the league almost. So, there's no point to listen
Even
to
though
me.
I got super lucky with Benjamin
Yeah.
start,
That
because
was
like I
clutch.
and this is so yeah, it's so funny because I'm tooting my own horn a little bit, but like that one week where Naeem Hines, it was either Naeem Hines or Jeff Wilson, and I was like, well, I don't know who I really want to go with, and I was thinking about going to Hines, and I was like, you know what? Every time I put Hines in,
Doesn't
he
do well.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll stick with Wilson, and then Hines gets knocked out like the
Play
first
one.
play with a concussion. Yeah, and then B Flynn's like, hey, looks like you made the right decision, and I was like, yeah, looks like I did. Then this week, I'm like, well, I like the matchup against the Chiefs for the 49ers, but I want to play Eno because I know he'll probably have the whole backfield to himself.
Did I?
And then sure enough, um, McCaffrey gets dealt to the Niners, and now Wilson's out of a starting job. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm
Works out nicely.
maybe I just yeah, like I mean, I'm 3-3, but
Did I tell you that I
maybe
actually
about it.
started Naheem Hines in another league that I was in because you said you benched him and then he got
Yeah,
hurt
I
and I
know.
lost that week?
That's literally how it works. That's literally I was like, hey man, like look, I'm benching him, so somebody else start him because I know he's gonna score that multi-touchdown game.
It'd always be like that.
Yeah.
So let's
So,
touch on the CMC trade. Do you
yep.
think that is good or bad for Spider Pigs, who currently owns Christian McCaffrey? Kate, I'll start with you. I feel like it's got to be a good thing, right?
yeah, I do. I think he's gonna have a lot of options there. And so right now in San Francisco, you're seeing Samuel used in that backfield a lot. And when we can get CMC over there, let him settle into his new role, I think he's really gonna like produce and even, kind of like we had made some comments to each other before, just open up a lot of the offense in general for what Shanahan's doing there. And I think any fantasy owner is just going to be reaping those rewards.
Do you think that this negatively impacts Debo Samuel's shares now? He's currently owned by Watson's 25th masseuse. Is it time to panic there, you think?
I considered it first, but the truth is, if they're either going to put them both in the backfield. We'll see something interesting there if they're both set up behind Lance. But, if Shanahan keeps it fresh and just moves Samuel out and just like kind of lets him shine as a wide receiver, then I think, he might drop in snap share, but instead of having to fight and scrap for those yards, get 7 or 9 yards, he might pick up some 14, some 17, 20-yard receptions
Yeah.
and still, get the points either way.
And
Maybe even more points that way.
You don't really want to put the unnecessary hits too up the middle on Debo, who's going off. So this is a great opportunity for him. Codes, fast forwarding to 2023, how does this impact Trey Lance? I mean, I feel like he should be valued higher now per se, or does CMC put like too much of a damper on the offense, you think, where you're worried if you have Lance?
Like when I first heard about the trade, I was like, I think it's great for them right now, and I think it's great for them in the future, because like if Lance comes in next year, if Jimmy G retires or walks or whatever, and Lance is back and fully healthy next year, and your backfield if in the shotgun is like Lance and McCaffrey over like Lance and Mitchell or Lance and Wilson, like what's not to like? I don't think it's gonna take away from Lance's production. It'll help him more than it'll hurt him. So, because I mean, I guess it's like if you put like maybe Trey Lance with like the Titans with Henry, and like they just want to run the ball with Henry 24/7, then that might hurt Lance's production a little bit. But like I can totally see where Lance is just they're doing some kind of like run pass option stuff or just dumping off to McCaffrey, letting him work, because like the yak ability on that team is insane now with McCaffrey, Debo, and Kittle.
Yeah, and Ayuk
and Ayuk. So it's like you just get the ball in any of their hands and then they just go. Yeah. And like you said earlier, Shanahan offense. So yeah, I mean, sky's the limit. I don't think it's a damper on Lance's stock,
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys just said too. I think that with it being a Shanahan offense, there's no reason why they can't figure something out, test the waters this year, then really have it click in next year. Jimmy G, 1 year left on that deal, and then he could go wherever he wants. So we'll see how that goes. Let's move right along into our standings here. So we take a look at the Jamarcus Russell division. We've got 5-1 for Raggy, 4-2 for Dan Flashes, 2-4 for the Webster Tigers, and 1-5 for Justin's Deli. Then the Leaf division, that's the division of death. 5-1 for the Kungsu Pandas, 4-2 for both Brown Out and the Quad Fathers. Win like Flynn, not living up to their name at 0-6. And then the Smith division is a bit wild as well, 4-2 for the Spider Pigs, 3-3 for Watsons and the Diamond Dogs. And we've got the implications down at 1-5. The big question I have for you guys, so the bottom 4 teams compete in the toilet bowl bracket, which determines the pick order for the first 4 picks. We've got team 5 and 6 will then compete in an extra pick bracket where teams 5 and 6 play a best of 3 to see who gets the extra pick at the end of round 1, and the top 6 make playoffs. When I look at the standings here, I feel like there's a very clear line for our bottom 4 teams with implications Win Like Flynn, Justin's Deli, Webster Tigers. But the difference is implications obviously with the Burrow trade and Win Like Flynn with the Kamara trade. They have 100% thrown in the towel. Like, right, we know that they're done, but we haven't seen that with Webster Tigers. We haven't seen that with Justin's Deli. So is this bottom 4 clear cut to you both, or maybe not so much?
I'll start. I think I've been impressed with what Morgan's done with the Tigers, and maybe he hasn't done anything. Maybe it's just all been luck with Taysom Hill, but like he's got 2 wins when he came into the league, like with arguably the worst roster because it was an orphan. Like it's not like hating on his draft or anything, because he literally didn't draft the team, so he got what he was dealt, and he's so far 2-4. I mean, it's not a great record, but I guess considering the circumstances with that roster, I mean, he's got some pieces. He's got Chase on the roster. What else has he got? He's got
Chase, and the other thing, he's been active on the waiver wire. So Taysom Hill was a free agent, and he's picked him up. He's been very vigilant on picking up pieces that he can build on in the future.
He's got Chase, he's got Chubb, he's got Laura, and so like he's set up pretty nice for future.
When he comes back next year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as far as like this year goes, though, I'm trying to think of like, because like I don't really see myself dropping too far in the standings. I thought I had one of the greatest rosters in the league, but here I am 3-3. Reality hits like a truck.
Here we are. We wake up.
So yeah, and Watson's masseuse, he got Hopkins back, so now he might start rising up. And I know that everyone's talking about Spider Pigs not making the playoffs in that newsletter poll, But like, look, he's 4-2 with Allen and McCaffrey. Like, I know you can vouch for me when I say this because I was always telling you this in DMs, just talking about our division.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know why everyone hates on Spider Pigs because he's got like he at least has the roster to compete this year. So,
Yeah,
and
and
then
there
like
are
you're
several
talking,
weeks left.
mm-hmm,
Several weeks left.
yeah,
So, it's hard. Definitely the records, the standings, those rankings are like pretty representative of I think the team's strengths and weaknesses, and
mm-hmm,
the coaches are kind of figuring out, all right, who can I rely on right now? And maybe, who can't I rely on? And locking that in over I think the next 3 or 4 weeks will really, make more of a difference regarding, who's going to make those playoffs.
Yeah,
But we still have time.
and with those last three games of the season, again, you go back against everybody in your division. So, in these tight divisions like the Leaf division, like the Smith division, and even like
Yeah.
the top two in the Russell division, I mean, when you play your opponents in your division, those last three games, things can get wild where you shoot from third to first, you shoot from second to first, you shoot from first to third,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
those games matter
There's
more than anything
four
else.
4-2 teams right now
Yep.
in the whole league.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And two of them are playing this week
Yep.
in the matchup of the week, but that will, yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna, change things up.
Let's talk about that matchup of the week as we look towards this next week. Spider Pigs against the Quadfather. Spider Pigs currently projected at 120 points. Obviously, still lineup changes can be made, but when we took the information here, Spider Pigs at 120 projected
mm-hmm.
versus the Quadfathers 167. You guys predicting Quadfathers to come out with a win this time, or you think it's going to be Spider Pigs taking it home? I'll start
I
with
can
Kate
pull
on
up
this
the
one.
roster real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up their
Yeah.
current starters
Yeah, so current
because I know that
big names on the team. So for Spider Pigs, we've got Marcus Mariota and Matt Ryan at the super flex and
right.
quarterback position, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, and Zach Ertz. And then for the Quadfathers, the big five I took were CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, and Ramondre Stevenson. I feel like
Yeah.
in name value alone, and with the quarterback power alone, this should be a Quadfathers game to lose.
Yeah.
I had a quarterback on each team on my team at the beginning of the year before they got sent away, but I think that Joe Burrow and Derek Carr should be able to overpower Mariota and Ryan, unless the two of them have weeks that they did last week, where Matt Ryan really seemed like he finally got it together, and Mariota
Yeah,
won Player of the Week offensive for the NFC.
yeah, the
Yeah.
variance
And
is crazy.
Burrow's also coming off of that, that fire. So I'm leaning Quad Fathers here. It's tough. We had kind of mentioned earlier the importance of flex. I kind of caught some flack a couple weeks ago in the review for, like, I think not even going over tight ends or not even going over flex, one or the other. Something
Mm-hmm.
was just like not there. And when you're looking at this lineup, you kind of get down and you just see, okay, like, who do we have in flex over here? We have Anderson, and I hate to hate, but the truth is, we have to have um, more solid reliability on these teams if we're just going to say, okay, I have it this week.
Yeah,
Right.
And I don't see that. I don't see
needs
that this week.
needs someone worthy to talk about. That's why last week when he was doing match of the week for me, he didn't even bother to mention any of my tight ends because he's like, no one can compare to Kelsey.
Right.
So
And it is.
And then what happened? The dude popped off. He stays popping off.
he stays. Yeah,
The other thing that's worth
true.
pointing out too is Spider Pigs do have Josh Allen, who is on a bye week this week. So when you really need him to come
Right.
through and play, it's a rough one to have him on a
Mhm.
bye, because these two teams could be competing for a wild card spot depending on how things shake out.
Yeah.
Any potential upsets you guys see in the standings? What's funny, by the way, the Rutro Raggy versus the implications. We got the two running backs there. I had to switch out. I said James Conner in the newsletter as the featured players, and then he didn't play, so I switched it
He
to
didn't
Robinson,
play,
and I've
okay.
got J.K. Dobbins, who's also now been ruled out. So I really
Right,
picked
yeah,
the
he's
poor
got a
matchup
knee
there.
injury.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, when we look at these, is there anything that you think could get weird? I really feel like Watson's versus win like Flynn, because again, the rules around tanking, you cannot intentionally try to lose, right? You can't pick up a third string quarterback and play him as your quarterback. You have to try, right? I picked up PJ Tucker, God forbid, to play because Baker's hurt. So win
Yeah.
like Flynn right now with his projected, with following the rules that way, is projected only 1 point less than Watson's 25th masseuse. Do we think win like Flynn gets the first win of the season, or is there something else that catches your eye?
I'm
This could be an
sitting
upset.
here, Codes, if you don't mind me cutting in first. I'm sitting here looking at Win Like Flynn's team, and I'm kind of disappointed that now, knowing, his record and the not winning that's been happening, because
The not winning,
the,
yeah,
the team's not terrible.
It's
I
not.
see
It's that
value
division.
here.
yeah,
Yeah,
it really
and
is.
it looks like a competitive, yes, division. So I'd say that that first win's possible. I'm kind of rooting for it, not to you know, be hating on the other
Mhm.
guy. But
I want to see
That's
the
yeah, that's the
points scored.
variance with fantasy. What were you saying?
I'm checking points scored. Win Lake Flynn
Okay.
currently with the least points scored,
do you have
actually.
all his
But
best
there's,
people on?
yeah, I mean, that, you look at the roster, he's got good people. And again, had Alvin Kamara earlier in the season before moving him away for the picks, kind of really throwing in that towel. Because you've got
Mhm.
a 5-1 team and 2 4-2 teams in that division. There's no way to compete. So I think that was a smart move for Win Lake
Yeah.
Flynn, but it always is disappointing to have to say, okay, it's over, at week 4 or,
Yeah.
week 5.
Hey,
It's just
just
that variance.
yeah, plan for next year. Plan to just balance out and um, yeah, make moves. See if the other coaches will work with you. See if there's flexibility on the waiver wire, with injuries, and just kind of make a move like the implications, and don't waste time.
Yeah. All right, guys, final thoughts before we go ahead and wrap this thing up. Codes, anything on your end?
Well, I was before we even wrap it up. I was gonna
Oh, I
say
didn't
I
give you a chance to
actually,
respond, did I? Whoops.
yeah, no, I'm gonna say I think Win Like Flynn wins this week.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna say he gets his first dub.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah, and it's not because Watson's is in my division at all.
Okay.
That's not at all why I say that. But no, um, yeah, I mean projections are projections. You get into the game, and then you check the stats at halftime, and you're like, oh, this guy was projected to have me 16 points, and why does he only have 4? You're like,
Yep.
because that's just
Fantasy
how the
football.
game goes, brother. Yeah, welcome to the game. So,
Yeah.
anything can happen. That's why I'm gonna say that I think he gets his first win.
And these
Rooting for you.
projections did come after the Thursday night football game, by the way. So these
Right.
numbers do not take into account whatever happened on Thursday night with Hopkins
Yeah,
and the players.
and
So,
yeah, Hopkins balled out,
yep.
so he's back officially.
Yeah.
But I mean, I keep up with the Chargers because I have Everett, and like, I mean, if Allen doesn't play, Palmer's already ruled out. So if Allen doesn't play, they're not gonna have anybody to throw to than Mike Williams and Gerald Everett and Eckler. So
Yep.
maybe a blow up game for Mike Williams. I don't know,
Don
not
Parham.
speaking into existence, but
And
Donald
yeah, I
Parham's
don't
Eckler.
here.
know. So
Yeah.
well, I think Parham's ruled out too, but
Oh, is he?
I haven't.
Oh well.
Yeah,
I just stole him from when.
concussion. So.
I just stole him from Kungsu
Yeah,
Pandas.
he's not happy about that. He's like, "Hey
2
man,
in a
you
row.
gotta stop targeting my players. Yeah, like what's going on here?
Well, the
Like
OBJ
this
one was
next
because I
week, if
needed a
you
wide receiver,
yeah
and I
yeah
just like Parham. So,
it's
oh well. Hopefully, he's not too
yeah
mad at me. Okay, so for real final thoughts this time, Cade, will go your way.
Yeah, final thoughts. I mean, I'm just excited to see how this week shakes out. Like I said, grateful to be here. It's been awesome seeing the development, seeing, kind of the coaches' game plans and how it's performed and how everyone's adapted to it. So, I mean, that's what makes this game fun. Not just watching it, but being involved. So yeah, this has been great. Thank you. Look forward to it in the future as well.
hmm
Yeah, Code's final thoughts, other than showing us your hat.
Other than showing us that it's a hurt season, um, no, that's it. I'm gonna end it on that note.
Perfect. All right, we will see you guys next week. Going to make this consistent. It will be the 3 of us plus 1, more than likely from here on out. So, if you're interested in joining us for the next one here, go ahead and reach out to me through Sleeper or Discord. And looking forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Have a good night.